Thank you, sir. Shane's Gearbox, Shane's motorbike. I delivered the bike back to the customer. He had trouble with it flooding all the time. So I went up there and I got it going. Then it happened again. It's basically the float had it. So picked the bike back up, changed the float. Dan, our test rider, took it out for a test ride. Said it rides lovely, surging a little bit, blah 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 blah. So because it hasn't got the fixed main jet like a military WL, so I wound out the high speed needle a bit, which richens your mixture up, which could have been the surging. He's taken it outside. I said to him, we would be able to tell just by riding it around the units, and he said yeah, blah blah blah. Got to the end, and the gearbox locked up solid. I mean absolutely jammed solid. We had to put one part of the ramp on the bottom of a trolley jack,
yeah,
and put the bike on that to wheel it back here. It's just locked solid on the gearbox side.
Pretty dangerous then.
Yeah, I mean if you'd have been riding that at 70 mile an hour and it had done it, it's game over. You don't want to be wheel skidding one of them at 70 miles an hour, because
Hell no.
They're not the best handling things in the world anyway. So lucky boy on that aspect. Obviously not so lucky for Shane. Feel very sorry for him, but it's not our fault, you know. It's something's broken in the gearbox. Again, it's a 1941-42 motorcycle, you know.
Would there be any telltale signs of that happening, or?
The only thing was, before we took it out again, we were kicking it over to start it, and it seemed to be jumping into gear, and there felt like false neutrals on the gear shifter.
Okay.
Which, when you think about how the gearbox works, I'll explain it, that's exactly what it was doing.
Right.
You can't get it in and out of gear where it wants to go.
False neutrals, is that?
We should only have one neutral.
Yeah.
So you first, neutral, second, third, click it back and down through the gearbox, yeah?
Yeah.
And all your gears should select nicely, and you only have one neutral as such, if it's adjusted correctly on this.
Yeah.
That's the only other thing that can do it, but this was not good. So took the gearbox out and stripped it, and it became very clear very quickly what was wrong with it. So your main shaft, which is this, goes in there, yeah? Yeah?
Yeah.
So your first and second gears slide on that. So that piece there, yeah?
Okay.
It's called your second gear retainer.
Yep.
So that stops the second and first gear sliding any further into the gear cluster that way.
Yeah.
Yeah? So your drive dog goes on here. So you have a dog that goes on there. So that selects either top gear or second gear.
Yeah.
Okay? And basically, if that isn't there, basically all of that, your first and second gear can slide down that way.
Yeah.
And you can only slide so far, because otherwise your cogs clash with each other.
Yeah.
As such. Now this is what's left of that second gear retainer. So that bit was on there. Okay. So that was sitting in the gearbox like that one, bolted in, yeah. That to that. Similar parts, yeah. So when that snapped off and has gone in the bottom of the gearbox,
Yeah.
all the gears have ridden this way.
Yeah.
You can see that dark material there is where it's been cracked for a long time. The clean material on the outside there is the last straw before it just went ping and broke off. I mean, all the gearbox internals, whoever built it made a good job of it. It's got new slider forks, it's got new main shaft, it's got a new counter shaft, the gear cluster looks new. So it was either shimmed up horrendously, but when Dan first test rode it, he said it changed gear lovely.
Yeah.
So I think it's just hit the final straw and that snapped off. Unfortunately, that went down in the bottom of the gearbox and snapped that tooth clean off of there, look.
Wow. Okay.
Which is, I mean, it's not in, it looks like it should be major money. They're about 170 quid.
Yeah.
So it's not the end of the world money wise. but Shane's now decided he wants to sell the bike, but I've got a usable second-hand one here.
Yeah.
And I had the usable second-hand, which I can understand his point of view. He's lost heart in the bike.
Yeah, he's fed up, isn't he?
Wants to sell it, which I don't blame him, but these are perfectly usable parts. It looks tatty, but you know, there's no grind marks on the teeth or anything, so that's just where it's been sitting for ages. So just a matter of reassembling with what parts we've got to make sure it's all okay. First thing you do, make sure that you've got your 40 bearings in that end. There's 40 needle rollers in there. Make sure you've got no horrendous play in it. It's all turning nice and free. Then you have what's called your end float spacer washer. Okay, so you pick one that's small. You have to make sure that your top hat's on and that washer there is on. All the dimensions are in the book. I believe that one's 52 thou. Okay, so you choose these. You get different sizes of these.
Yeah.
Okay, so you start off with a small one. Put him in there. This is the first thing you do, yeah? So that's spring loaded. I had to make a gasket because I didn't have one in stock, but that'll do for the moment. Okay, you slide your outer casing on. This casing has literally seen better days, but we've got to deal with what we got. That's been helicoiled, that's been helicoiled, that's been helicoiled. Your two cross shafts.
What's helicoiled?
Thread replacement, thread repair.
Okay.
Yeah, so you drill it out a larger size. I'll go and get one. So if you have something that's going into steel or aluminium, yeah, and the thread has gone, you drill your hole out a larger size, yeah?
Yeah.
And that'll be to the external diameter of that. Okay? Yeah. And that's the thread size you want, is the internal. So you drill out and tap your hole a larger size, and you get your tool and you wind your helicoil in, break the tang off the end, and that's your thread repaired.
Okay.
Right, so like I say, this it's all over the place, so we just got to start it off with a which clearly isn't the best way of doing things, but we ain't got a lot of choice. So what you have to do is tighten it all up with the gasket on. They say to do it with every nut and bolt in the whole wide world put back in, but I tend to do it with 2 on that end, 2 there and 1 in the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need, because normally you'd have your clutch cover plate on, so I just put spacers on, yeah. Because you want to get that in as tight as a final fitting would be, if that makes sense. And this is why these gearboxes take so long, because you've got to shim this, then you've got to shim your second and first gear, then you've got to take it all apart again, then you've got to shim your counter shaft. You just got to keep doing it, that's all it is. Make sure they're tight. For this at the moment I will put one in the bottom because I don't know how knackered the casing is, so we'll just put him in there. We'll use that nut because we're top and bottom, then that should be fine. Right, okay. I'll just slip that washer in. You don't need to put all the bearings in at the moment. I'll just hold that square in the shaft, yeah?
Okay.
So that there, in and out, is your end float, yeah? We know this is done up hard. We know that's set back where it should be. And we put a small washer in, yeah?
Okay.
So now you've got to measure it. There is a Harley specific tool. This is just the fact that I've got a DTI that will fit on it. Right, he's nice and tight. Right, so set that to 0. Okay. Push that in. Right, that's giving us 20 thou end float. Okay.
Yeah.
This isn't an exact science, but you want to get it fairly close. Okay. So have a look in your book. Fits and tolerances. Clutch gear standard, available, blah blah blah. Counter shaft gear, fork shifter. So main shaft, that's what we're doing, yeah? 3 to 5 thousandths of an inch. Okay? So we've got to get that from 20 thou to 3 to 5 thou, yeah?
Yep.
Take it apart again. Held by my stomach. Check it out.
There comes the use.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so we take that apart. Get your end thrust washer out. Go and get a calculator and a bit of paper. Right, so that's our existing washer we had in there, yeah? We need to measure that. That's 82 thou. So our existing is 82 thou. We want 20 more, because so 0 tolerance would give us plus your 20 thou.
Yep.
And we want between 5 and 3.
Yeah.
So we're looking at about 15 thou.
Yeah.
We need to add to that, yeah? So let's do that. 82 plus 15 is 7, 9, 97 we're looking for roughly, yeah?
Okay.
Put your washer that's existing somewhere over there out the way. That's over 100, so that'll be too big. 80, it's going to be 80 something. 95 we got there. Let's keep that one aside. Too big. Right, so the nearest one we got, we were looking for about 97, and that's 95. So let's put that in and see what we end up with, yeah?
Okay.
I mean, these tolerances, you should, in theory, get them exact, but the step up in sizes, and to be fair, half of these are reproduction crap anyway, so you have to kind of go within a broad medium.
Yeah.
But 1 thou on one of these, or 2 thou, isn't going to make a shit's worth of difference. It really isn't. Of course, everybody would love to get it right. We all would, but so that feels like more than 4 thou to me, but it's deceptive. Right, so 0 back out again. Right, that's 7 thou. So we've got nothing in between spacer wise on the washers.
Yeah.
So in theory it should be no more than 5 thou, but 2 thou on this realistically is not going to make the slightest bit of difference. So
when you say it's not going to make the slightest bit of difference, if it was 3 or 4, I mean, where's that
too
point?
tight is bad.
Yeah.
So if it was under 3 thou, be worried.
Yeah.
2 thou over on this, it won't make the slightest bit of difference.
But at what point does that will make a difference?
Well, like that was 20 thou before.
Yeah, but
Anything over, I wouldn't go any more than 2 thou over.
Right.
Which is, we're under that.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
Yeah, in quotes, I can't remember. Let's have a look. So we're looking at washer number AP. See, that goes from 78 thou to 113 inch thickness. But I can't remember whether they're 2 thou spacings, 1 thou spacings. But that's all we've got at the moment.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, the state of these casings, if it was all brand spanking new, yeah, I'd worry about it. But that Ain't gonna make a shit's worth of difference to that. Right, now take it apart again. Now we need to do our second and third gear tolerance. Right, now we need to check our gears. We know that our spacer washer is in there. So take it, all of the shit that you've taken and gone through and measured, because you put your one down on the bench and it's in the middle of that lot. You have to do it all again.
Done that.
I've done that a lot. Right, so that's done with. We don't need those anymore. So you look at your main shaft assembly. Take that off and put him back in there so you know where it is. So now you've got to check your tolerances between here, when your two gears are on there, and that second gear retainer plate that was broken before, yeah?
Yeah.
So, only goes together one way. If you look at your cluster that goes in that side of the gearbox, it's large to small, yeah?
Yep.
So you've got small cog, which lines up with that one. Okay?
Yep.
And your big cog, which lines up with that one. So the first thing on, that's your engaging dog that way. So we don't have a dog on there, so AU should be that washer there. Now that, obviously where the gearbox has jammed itself up, when something goes purple like that, it's burnt. Doesn't mean there's necessarily anything wrong with it, because you'll never get one of these hot enough to actually melt it. It just means it's been rubbing and it's too hot. So AU, look up our dimension on here. AU, low gear end thrust washer, 52 thousandths of an inch thick. Make sure you're back out at 0 on your vernier. 52 thou. So he goes on there. That sits on that way. Okay, so that feels good. Bearing's nice and smooth. And then you have this gear, this washer here, which is again a variable thickness to give you your shimming, yeah?
Okay.
So that is washer AS. AS 40 thou to 75 thou. So that's your variations you can get. So we've got 74, so that's the largest you can get. So what I would start with is one a bit smaller than that. You want tolerance in there first to see what you can get. That was a 75. Right, that's a 60. Let's put a 60 in and see how we get on, yeah? You put this together without the gear dogs, nothing, all you're checking here is tolerances.
Yep.
So if I push that, a basic check, yeah? If you can push that in as hard as it will go without any end covers on, and you're up against your washer that you've measured there, and you can spin those gears, you know you've got clearance there.
Yeah.
So now you put it together and you have to check it with feeler gauges. But that's a basic standby check.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't spin those cogs, then you've got to go smaller. Just employ 5 to 7 thou with washer of required thickness. Alright, so let's start with 10 thou. That there, see that play? That side play. Yeah. Right, so you've got your two gears, the adjustable shim washer in the middle, yeah? Yeah. So what we got to do is measure the gap between those, because that is sliding, look. See? And you want that to be 7 thou. So I can get 15 in there. So we've got a big old gap there. only just moved that, so that is 16 thou. So again, we take it apart. Right, so we've got 16 thou plate. Let's measure that, and we've got basically 60 thou. So we've got 60 thou, we've got 16 plate gap, so we want 7 thou clearance, so let's add 9 thou, isn't it? Right, that's about 69. Smaller. Okay, so let's put these away. Start with that one, see how we get on, 'cause he's brand new. Right, so we are looking for 7 thou, aren't we? Right, that's nice.
Alright, you thought it'd be a bit too tight, didn't you?
Yeah, I thought it would be, but it's very hard to tell until you put everything together, you know. So everything's rotating nice and free. Push that in as hard as it'll go. Still rotates, so yeah, that's good. Right, so that basically is all your adjustments on your main shaft. So get rid of all your washers. Get them out of the way, because you know when you build it, that's what you need, yeah? So now, take it apart. Right, so that is your main shaft cluster with all its spacers in, yeah?
Yep.
So leave him over there out of the way. Now we want to do our counter shaft, which is a cursory check more than anything else, just to make sure it spins freely. So as I say, this was a second-hand one. It's got some markings on it, but it's not the end of the world by any way or form, you know. So you've got a washer inside there, then I think it's 19 needle rollers and another washer. I've checked all of those, I know they're the right dimension, yeah?
Yep.
So that goes in there. Which is that. Then you have two big washers of the same thickness. So that goes in there. He goes down in there. And you put all your needle rollers in, making sure it pushes down that washer nicely. Right, then your other washer. So even though that was a second-hand one, it had bronze bushes banged in it. I banged those out, and you've got no play in that at all. That's quite a nice setup, so that's good. This is one of the major things that goes wrong with your kickstarts if this spring has gone, yeah?
Okay.
So that just holds your shaft back into this nicely. You've got to wiggle it in the hole if you can. Right, that's in the hole. So now all we do is put our casing back on and make sure you have got clearance, because you've got a top hat bush in that end, yeah, that cannot be put in properly, and you've got a top hat bush there which cannot be put in properly. So you just want to make sure that it does rotate freely when it's all together, yeah? Right, so we've got our spring loaded working on that, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Kickstart shaft rotates fine. And your counter shaft rotates fine. Bearings all in place. Not meshing too hard there. Right, so basically we know that all of that is okay, yeah? And we've got quite tight on the end float there, but there's not a major amount you can do with that. Let's back it off a bit and see if it frees up. Right, counter shaft. Small end diameter, 609 thou. Roller race for counter shaft gear rollers, diameter 7/736 of an inch. Clearance in case bushing, 2 thou, so that's radial tolerance. Clearance in side cover bushing, 1 thou. Counter shaft gear replace when counter shaft gear teeth are badly worn and or when roller faces are in bad order. So it doesn't give you an end float. So basically, as long as it's turning, it'll be okay.
Okay.
Which it is. Loosen it off. Back it off. Back it off. Back it off. Pull the casing out. It doesn't make it any easier or looser, so that's fine. So now you can put it together and see what's going on. Monotonous, that's the word. Okay. So we're happy with that. Tripper bolts look okay. And that's your kickstart dog. He goes in there like that. Only goes on one way. So I believe, yeah, one's got a bigger tooth. So that is what you call your kickstart dog, yeah?
Yep.
So when you kick your kickstart, that's engaged on those splines there, turns the gearbox over, yeah?
Okay.
Now when it's running, obviously the kickstart is in its upright position. See those angled, the radius bit there?
Yeah.
They sit in behind those tapered bolts there. They're called tripper bolts. One there, one there. So when it's in that position, you're kicking it over. When it goes into that position, it's holding that back off of the dogs there. And now you've got to wiggle it all in there with the spring, which should normally maintain itself. Let me just get a spanner for that. Right, so that's doing something in there. So hopefully that's good. Right, now you've got to take this apart again. Well, not really take it apart. Put your end thrust washer in there, trying to make it stay in place. And now we've got to put our selector dogs in. Right, so that selector dog there is that one, yeah? Engages in there. Okay. And he fits on there. And then you put your gear on. And then you put your gear on. And that selector dog can only go one way, which is not that way. It's that way. Okay?
Okay.
So that's that set up, but you have to put that in there like that. Wiggle him in. And all your gears should engage like that. And then you should be able to put your outer cover on and see what the hell's going on. This often tightens up, because that's a rubber seal, which is a load of shite to be honest with you, but Why you'd have a bit of rubber against a rotating part, I do not know. So we've just got to notch that out to clear our barrel pin holder. Right, so in theory, this should hopefully be the last time we have to put it back together. Right, let's see what it's like when it's tightened up. Sometimes that rubber washer is just a ball ache, just tightens everything up. Right, so now let's put our end rollers in, as that levels your main shaft up properly. He fits in there.
What are you checking?
Just to make sure it all rotates freely in neutral.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it is. That's at the top, dickhead. I was thinking that the notch is on the side and then wondering why the kickstart's in the wrong position, but the bolt's on the top. Yeah, about there. Okay. So that's all freely rotating. Main shaft can turn okay. So if you were putting it into first gear, it's hard to do when it's all... Right, that's first gear. Everything rotating nicely. Lock it out of first gear into second gear. Everything rotating nicely. Out of second gear into top gear. Everything rotating nicely. So now, it's the really shitty bit. You've got to work out your shifter forks, yeah? Making sure they've both got their top barrels on, yeah? So if they come off, shifter fork just go all over the place. So that is our pin, which this gearbox, as I say, is pretty worn out. That isn't standard. Somebody's put that on a lathe, machined a slot in it to put an O-ring in it, yeah? So that just goes in there. Holds your shifter forks. Not too loose, but it has got a bit of play in it. So now, you've got to try and be clever. I remember which way the shifter forks go in. I think that's the right way, let me check. My brain is being stupid today. They only go one way pretty much, because otherwise they hit each other. Yeah, nuts on that side, shifter fork that side, so that's correct. And that one goes nuts that way, that way. So they go into your dogs, yeah? That bit there sits in that groove there, and that's what selects your gears, yeah?
Okay.
Those moving across by your bit, you select a barrel. Okay, so neutral, that's all in gear. So you want that out of gear, that should sit about there. So that gives you neutral, yeah?
Okay.
Turn your main shaft, turn your clutch. So now, this has an O-ring on it to stop the oil leaking out, and that groove there is for a locating dot pin there. But for the moment, I'll just put it in. We'll get rid of our indent ball, because that holds it too tight sometimes, till you got it in and done. Oh. So that's what's called your indent ball, yeah? Sits on your... That goes in that way, so your ball goes into there, yeah?
Yep.
So it holds it positively in a gear. Right, so you've got one tooth there, let's see that one? So it's chamfered down, square topped, square topped, square topped, and well, you've got another one there. Right, well, we'll have to trial and error that then.
I'm assuming there should only be one then.
Should only be one, but normally you have different positions on here, but that one's marked up with a dot, yeah? Bearing in mind this has got a different shifter gate. So let's try it. It'll only go in one way because of that there. Okay, so it has to go up through there.
Yeah.
So let's go with that one, I'm guessing. So you've got to then get your selector dogs in, your forks. So your forks are in. And we're going with that one there. So let me get... So 1, 2, 1, 2. That'll go into there. That'll go into there. That'll go into there. So I think that's right, but I cannot be sure. Oh, that's right. You can't do that. You'll take that off to clear the bolts. Right, well, that's in the right place. So we're nowhere near a gear there, are we? Now this shifter pattern is backwards. So first, pulling the gearbox forwards. That's got to be going into first that way. Right, so let's try that a different way then.
What's the confusion then?
The 2 marks on this. Because it's a different shift pattern, it's not the same as a standard WL. Because that's a later civvy model, the gear pattern's different.
Yeah.
WLL, push it forwards for first, that, pull it backwards for first.
Oh, right. Okay.
So your beer barrels, your shifter barrels will be wrong.
Says it all, doesn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. So that's the one I used first, so let's try that one. Right, that should be first, which it is. First, that should be neutral. That's neutral, so putting it back on the lever is pushing that forward, so that should be first gear. Second, third, back to second, back to neutral. Past it. So that must be for a reverse box as well. So now there was another washer in there, but I've got to try and shim that as well, because this washer was in the bottom of the gearbox. See, that shouldn't have that end float on it. That's affecting all your gear shifting as well. So I think this gear cluster is for a reverse gearbox as well.
Right.
Because when you're sitting on a bike, neutral's there, and you've got to pull it back for first, which is pulling your gear lever forwards, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to make sure you've got it all the right way. So that's in neutral, happy with that. Might have to shim that a bit. Yeah, I can just touch, so it needs to come back over that way, which might have been why they had that shim washer in there. Yep, so a chamfer tooth's on the blue mark that was on there. So now, not happy about that. See if I can get that shim washer in there. So that first is holding in too hard. Basically now we've got to re-shim all the fingers, which is a fucking ball ache. Because everything was broken, and I mean if you shim that, put that shim washer in that end, which I couldn't get it in,
Yeah.
it'll be better, but it's not right. So now it's a matter of shimming up your finger forks,
Yeah.
to make sure nothing's clashing. That's all it is.
Okay.
So we've got dimensions for that. Side clearance of low gear shifter clutch, check between sides of shifter fork and low gear. 283 to 288. 288, 283. So that shifter fork has got to go that way by quite a lot. Shifter clutch cam must be in neutral position, clearance between driving dogs on high side and second shifter clutch and driving dogs on the clutch gear, highest point on the gear dogs overlapping 1/8 of an inch, 53 to 58. 54, that's right. We're in neutral. Right, so they all want to go that way, which we knew anyway. It's your smaller side. See how that play and that is moving that shifter fork? That's no good. So you've either got to try and get that spacer washer in that side to hold it back where it should be. This is the trouble, you see, when you've got all worn out parts and you're just trying to make it all fit. So as we're looking at it, this can get confusing as well, so it's best to draw it out. Oh, sexy. I'm gonna piss myself in a minute. Would help you fucking see something, a stupid poxy fucking design.
Why don't you stop and go for a piss?
Because I like swearing. How can it be that fucking hard? Fucking tortures run out.
Just wasn't lined up, that's all it was.
Nobody likes a wise ass. First, neutral, second, third. Feels a bit better, doesn't it? Second, neutral, right. Now let's measure everything, shall we? I should be overlapping by 1/8 of an inch. Right, they have both got to go very slightly, so take it apart again. We've got to take these apart and we want them both to go that way. So that's a fixed point, yeah? So you put shim washers between the forks and there.
Okay.
Okay? Right, so let's take that one apart. We want to go one washer that way. Well, that wasn't very tight, was it? So we wanted our shifter fork to go to the left very slightly. So we'll put that one in there, that one back in there. So we could probably go 2, what do we were, how tight were we? Let's go 2. Right, so that's our right hand shifter has now gone 2 that way. Put him back in. And we want this one, only very slightly this one. So we want that to reduce. Because it's that way, so we've got to take one washer out of that side. When you're banging these out, don't want to go too mad with them, because if you haven't got any spares, the fatigue when you're bending them, the tangs can snap off, which you don't want. So we got that and that. One big washer. One, oh no, there's quite a few small ones on there. So let's take 2 out of there. By reducing that, that moves our shifter fork that way, which is what we wanted, yeah?
Okay.
You can get this wrong very easily. Right, so boom, straight in there. Right, neutral. Second. Third. Second. Neutral. Right, now let's check. Plenty of clearance on that one. Right, we're good. Boom. That didn't take long, did it?
First time.
Right, so first. Hear that? No more clanging. Remember you could hear it just clicking?
Yeah.
That's because it wasn't shimmed right. That's good. Right, I'm happy with that now.